Which of the following is not a clinical feature of lateral medullary syndrome? Okay. Options: contralateral hemiplegia, contralateral loss of spinothalamic sensation, ipsilateral Horner syndrome, and ipsilateral loss of taste sensation. Okay, what are we talking about? We're talking about the lateral medullary syndrome. Now, to understand these differences between lateral and medial medullary syndromes, we need to go back to the anatomy. Okay, so when you say medullary syndromes, we're talking about medulla. Okay, now medulla being part of the brainstem, it has the tracts which are going up to the brain and the tracts which are coming down from the brain. Apart from that, it is also the site for cranial nerve nuclei. Okay, now if this is my midbrain, then this could be pons, and then this is what I would call as medulla, right? Okay. Now, what are the cranial nerves that are present in the medulla? We know the rule of 12, right? 12 cranial nerves, 2 attached to the brain directly, then remaining 2 are in midbrain, that is third and fourth are there in the midbrain, right? Then remaining 4, next 4, right? 5, 6, 7, 8 are there in the pons, basically at the pontomedullary junction. Then 9, 10, 11 and 12 cranial nerve nuclei are there in the medulla, right? Okay. So if there is a medullary lesion, you can have these cranial nerve involvement. Okay. Now, apart from that, we hear this term called as the medial and lateral medullary syndrome. Now, to understand the difference between these two, we need to understand what structures pass through the medulla medially and what structures pass through the medulla laterally. This is a very simple way of remembering it. There are 3 M's which pass through the brainstem medially, medial for M, and there are 3 S's which pass through lateral, and you can remember it as side, right? S for side. Side से गुजर रहे हैं 3 S's and medial से गुजर रहे हैं 3 M, 3 M's and 3 S's. Now, what are those 3 M? One of the M is medial longitudinal fasciculus, which will be discussed more in detail in ophthalmology. The remaining 2 M's are more important for a physician. What are those? One is the motor pathway, or what you call as pyramidal tract, right? The other one is medial lemniscus, lemniscus. So M here is medial lemniscus is one of them, and the other one is motor pathway or pyramidal tract. These structures are passing medially through the brainstem. So if there is any medial damage, right, like you say medial pontine syndrome or medial midbrain syndrome or medial medullary syndrome, those are the ones where the motor pathway and medial lemniscus will be affected. This medial lemniscus is the one which is carrying your dorsal column fibers, right? Okay. Now, what are the structures which are passing laterally? There are 3 S's. Okay. So, one S is spinothalamic tract. Spinothalamic tract. So, among these S's, one of them is spinothalamic tract. Now, what sensation it carries? It carries pain and temperature sensation. Okay. And we should know that in the spinal cord only, already the neurons have crossed to the opposite side, and the spinothalamic tract is already representing the opposite side, right? It is the fibers of the opposite side of the body which are ascending in the spinal cord, reaching to the brainstem. So it is representing contralateral pain and temperature sensation, spinothalamic tract. Okay. The next S here stands for sympathetic chain. Sympathetic chain. And the other S here stands for spinocerebellar tract. It stands for spinocerebellar tract. So in the brainstem, spinocerebellar tract and then your sympathetic chain and the spinothalamic tract are the ones which are traveling laterally. Clear? Medially, the motor pathway and medial lemniscus is traveling. So if you say medial medullary syndrome, that means the lesion is medially and it is affecting medial lemniscus and motor pathway. So you can have contralateral hemiplegia. Along with that, you can have the loss of dorsal column sensations. But when it comes to lateral medullary syndrome, the medial tracts are spared, so motor pathway is spared, so you will not have contralateral hemiplegia. You can have the involvement of sympathetic chain, you can have the involvement of spinothalamic tract. So those are the manifestations that we will be seeing. So let us go back to the option now. Contralateral hemiplegia, do we see that in lateral medullary syndrome? No, right? So that becomes our answer here, not a clinical feature. Contralateral spinothalamic sensation loss, yes, because I have already told you it is present on the side, right? Spinothalamic tract is present on the side, already representing the contralateral pain and temperature sensation that can happen. Okay, now the sympathetic chain represents the ipsilateral side. There is no decussation of the sympathetic chain, so you can have, because of the sympathetic chain compression or dysfunction, you can have ipsilateral Horner syndrome. So the second S of the side is the sympathetic chain that you can see, and then you can have ipsilateral loss of taste sensation because of the cranial nerve involvement. So BCD can be seen. Contralateral hemiplegia is not seen in a case of lateral medullary syndrome. Thank you.